hell are they?
They're us, that's all. There's no more room in hell.
What?
Something my granddaddy used to tell us. He used to tell us, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Hey folks, this is Monk. We are back to talk about another classic, and I'm joined as always with my co-host Bobby Blockbuster.
Yo, yo, yo!
Today, folks, we got a classic from classic director George A. Romero, and this is going to be Dawn of the Dead from 1978. In this story, as hordes of zombies swarm over the U.S., the terrified populace tries everything in their power to escape the attack of the undead, but neither cities nor the countryside prove safe. In Pennsylvania, radio station employee Stephen and his girlfriend Francine escape in the station helicopter accompanied by two renegade SWAT team members, Roger and Pete. The group retreats to the haven of an enclosed shopping center to make what could be humanity's last stand. Yeah, let's get into this thing, man. This is an interesting story of a film, man, first of all. So I think it's kind of cool here. We're following the steps of Night of the Living Dead, but this is not a direct sequel to that film, right? You know, so even George Romero says it himself. So this is kind of a reimagining of things that were established in the first film, and we're putting this thing in a different scenario and a different location, which happens to be a shopping mall. This is where our crew makes a stand instead of the farmhouse from the original film.
Well, what I like about it is, you know, how it ultimately separates itself from Night of the Living Dead, where it's like, you know, with Night of the Living Dead, it's a very condensed group in a secluded area, where this one, it seems like even though the zombie apocalypse is still relevant, it's like, how is society as a whole dealing with it? You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, how it just opens up with this, like, this level of mass hysteria. We see, you know, how the world is trying to deal with this craziness. And one of the things that we see right off rip is how in a crisis situation, one of the first things that leaves the window is your moral compass. You know what I'm saying? Certain people, you know, when they go in survival mode, they just, morality is gone. And, you know, I like how it really kind of pushes that envelope, you know what I'm saying, before we get to, you know, our core survivors making their way to the mall, you know what I'm saying? And we see this when they, you know, when they give us this, I guess the segment in the broadcast studio. Yeah,
I really like that sequence a lot, man, because like, I think for me, watching the original Night of the Living Dead, one of my favorite parts was seeing what the greater government, you know, local government, community, first responders, what they were doing with the scenario. So that news scene is really cool because we see even this is kind of breaking down on this film. His films tend to have a lot of social commentary without beating you in the head. But looking at how that news station is even dealing with it. Some of them are press. They're still thinking about ratings and staying on the air. You know what I'm saying? And our woman here, Francine, she's thinking about, we got to get the right information out to the people. There's a point where she butt heads with the producer, and she's like, this information is outdated that we're showing on the screen. And the producer's like, well, if we don't show any information, the people are going to turn to a different channel. Right. And I'm like, bro, you're worrying about ratings? Right. And this, like, what could possibly be the end of the world?
Yes. And, you know, and that is why this story excels, is through the social commentary. You know, when they give us the broadcasting clips of, like, it's fact versus opinion, you know what I mean?
And I think even leading off of that, we see, you know, our guy, Stephen Flyboy, who takes initiatives like, yo, we got to get out of here. Like, I got a chopper. You know, his girlfriend works there too. So he grabs her. It's like, yo, let's get out of here. And they take off, man. And it's crazy because everyone else still below is thinking like, you know, I guess maybe he has the foresight or the awareness of like, I don't think this is going to get any better anytime soon. Whereas a lot of the news employees seem to be operating from this point of view where this is going to pass. We're here to report it. You know, this is just another event that happened, but it's crazy. And then I like how too, we get the other perspective of, you've got an outbreak in the projects, bro. Which is crazy.
I was just about to say. So I mean, we get the chaos and carnage going on in the newsroom and how they're trying to deliver the message to the masses, and then we got the SWAT cops that are on street level, you know, and they're pretty much trying to run into this project building, not because the residents are creating havoc, but because they don't want to get rid of the dead bodies that are already, you know, reanimating, because, you know, they
don't know, you know know?
Yeah, they don't really know. And also, like, it's like, no, there's still due process. They're in their mindset is when people pass, you know, we put them in the cemetery, we say our last goodbyes and do all these things. So they're saving the bodies for that.
Yeah, and also I like that nature of it. It would make sense that the people will be reacting like this because this is like I said, it's not a sequel, so they don't know anything about any of this. So. And the way this, if you get bitten, you're gonna die.
You're gonna die.
You know?
You're gonna turn. You're not.
And then you're gonna
die.
turn.
Yeah.
So they're thinking like, okay, maybe the bite killed them. So maybe it's like a snake. You get bitten, the poison kills you. So they put all the bodies into place, not knowing that these bodies are gonna reanimate.
And I like how it really touches on a personal human trait when you see these people, they're holding on to hope. Yeah. They're holding on to hope that things will get back to a sense of normalcy. And then on
these are loved ones too, man. Like there's that scene where one of the women seemingly tries to keep this SWAT team from killing her looks like someone she knew. I don't know what relation, but she knew him. And she's like, yo, stop, don't do that to her. She runs up to him not knowing that this thing is a monster now.
Jaws bit her neck, yo.
And just like and it's crazy. So I think those moments add something to this. It gives it a more human feel to it.
Absolutely.
Putting that scene in there. And at the same time, we're seeing an overly militarized response also out of control, you know?
Yes. And I was just about to say that. And you're seeing that some of people in those positions, they're using this crisis situation to really put their hatred at the forefront and using it as almost as a reason to start to eradicate, you know, certain individuals for their own personal, you know, reasons. And that's not cool. But that's what I was saying initially where, you know, in situations like this, some people, the first thing that leaves the building is their morality.
Yeah. So both of those scenes, the news station and then the projects, that gets our core group of characters together.
They show that this meeting between, you know, the four people in Fly Boy, Fly Girl, Peter and Roger was not by circumstance. Peter and Roger knew each other. They had some kind of communication when they first initially went to gas up the chopper. Flyboy reached out.
Steven and Roger.
To Roger on the CB. And then
like, I'm getting out of here. You want to ride?
Yeah. And it was cool too, because at that point you see that, you know, yes, their plan is to go up, you know, in the helicopter, but they took the fuel from a port where these other people were like going to leave on a boat. So you see, like the general consensus is, okay, shit is bad. We got to leave the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah. You know and that's kind of cool, man. So I guess we get into, you know, our cast a little bit. So our main core of survivors, we got Steven Emge, Emge, who plays Flyboy, got Kim Faree, who plays a SWAT team member Peter, Gaylen Ross plays Francine, Steven's girlfriend. Then we also got Roger, who's played by Scott Reininger, who was also the other SWAT team member. And these are our, you know, 4 survivors who take off. And eventually they don't really have a destination. They're just like, yo, we got to get out of here and try to find somewhere safe. And it's almost dawn, like the sun's coming up when they take off. So it's kind of interesting that they, you know, the sun's coming up and I love this scene. It's in the background now. You see the military trucks moving and we still don't know what's going on, but we know stuff's happening. The locals, they're gunning the zombies.
I was about to say, I like how they pan down and you see the locals and they, Peter even makes the comment. He's like, yeah, the rednecks are loving this because, and then, I mean, you get a complete tonal shift. The movie almost becomes comedic in a sense where you see these guys, that are on ground level having fun with this, like using the zombies as target practice. They're toting 30 packs and like woohoo and like this is fun for them. Like I said, yet again, it really makes you question where these people are at in their lives mentally, like where you take a situation like this and find joy in it. You know,
there's people waiting for something like this to happen.
They're waiting to break out their new guns.
They're waiting for martial law. They're waiting for whatever. Oh my God,
it's insane. And then, you know,
I'm not gonna lie though, if I was out in this country and this is I'm probably be out there too. Just like, hey, we gotta keep the community safe.
I would too, off survival instinct. But I'm not gonna go out of my way
picking them off.
I'm not gonna go out of my way to track them down and pick them off either. It's like, you know, you defend your gate once there's a problem at your gate.
But that's the thing too about these kind of films, or at least the nature of this kind of an outbreak. I feel like in the country you could probably keep it in control longer than you could inside densely populated cities, and that's where it's going to get crazy, and that's where the numbers are going to start getting over. Like imagine like a New York City, 8 million people, you know what I'm saying, in and out of Manhattan every day. And that island suddenly has an outbreak. Like, you're not going to be able to just act like these guys in the country and just be casually barbecuing and picking off zombies.
Yeah, that's why the person on the broadcast, the dude with the eye patch, he's one of the scientists, and he makes a comment. He's like, well, if you guys don't want to go out of your way to try to feed them, we start giving the zombies food and kind of keep them at bay.
That's some of the humor coming in.
Then what we're going to start doing is nuking all the major cities. It's like, so it's wild because, I mean, people are starting to come to the rationale that, yes, in more heavily populated areas, it's a bigger problem. Yeah. But I like how it also shows that with our core four, they think, okay, well, if the problem's on the ground, we go up. But you can only fly for so long because they have to keep going back down to get gas.
Yeah, you gotta jumping around from different airstrips up and down the coast.
And ultimately you have to realize at some point, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna go down and not go back up because gas only lasts but so long.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Nobody's making new gas, so
that's it.
It's wild. So ultimately they find a shopping mall and decide to hold down in there. But let's get to these characters, man, because I think it's cool, man. Steven, as Flyboy, as they call him, because he's the helicopter pilot, and his girlfriend, he did do, he did grab his girl on the way out. I think a lot of dudes probably would have left their boo, but it's also convenient that she was at work with him. Would he have went out of the way to leave work to go grab her? I don't know.
And you also find out throughout the course of the film that she is pregnant with his child too.
Which adds an interesting dynamic, but Steven's pretty solid here, man. He does what needs to be done for the greater good of the group. He's a helpful, useful member in all this.
He is. I mean, and for him to do what he did the way he did it is commendable, respectable. For me, my standout character, I like Ken Foray as Peter because he is the leader of the pack. Like he was thrust in this position, not by choice, but just the way that he maneuvers through it. They gravitate toward him and walk behind him because he leads with force, and he also
there's an interesting thing about him too, like that I think not to cut you off, but some people have a theory. There's a fan theory that he wasn't a SWAT team member. That he was possibly just a guy that lived in the building. Maybe he did have some military training or something and saw this as an opportunity to get the hell out of here.
There's a part in the Euro cut where they kind of where they're asking a little bit of information about each other, and he's like, I'm from here, but I got two brothers, and one of them's a football player, and one of them's in jail and stuff like that. So he kind of you get a little bit about him, not to say that would determine if he was or wasn't a SWAT member, but kind of just gives a little bit to
it's fun to think about. Like, I don't know if it's conclusive or not. It's just
absolutely not.
Just a detail.
But like I said, I mean, he leads with his chest, and I think that he is probably the most core solid member of the group. I mean, of course, without Steven, they wouldn't have been able to make it to the mall. But once they reach the mall, he shines through the pack.
But I also like what Francine brings to the table too, because she's pregnant, but she's also has some survivor instincts as well, man. There's a point where she kind of stands up, later on when they're in the mall and like, yo, I need a say in what we're doing out here too. I'm one of the people. There's 4 people here. There should be 4 votes. And even the point where I want to learn how to fly the helicopter, which is like crazy that none of the other ones even thought of that. Like, what if something does happen to Flyboy and we still got to get out? No one else knows how to fly this chopper. And it's funny because I don't know why Flyboy did it, but he seemed annoyed when they agreed that, she should be able to learn how to fly. He's like, I don't know. I don't get that.
I think for him, it's because they're in a relationship and he kind of wants to be her protector, but he's going about it in the wrong way. But
he's got traditional values.
And, with her, I'm glad you touched on it because, when we talk about movies in this likeness with these kind of situations, whether it's a zombie apocalypse or something else, I always love the character that is the voice of reason. And that is what Francine is. Also, not by just her comments, but by her actions, by her willingness to want to push herself harder and learn more, to be more essential to the group and to herself. You know what I'm saying? That is dope. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that, she is a woman in the group and that these 3 dudes, they're trying to, flex machismo and kind of just keep her on the back burner. And when she stood up for herself, that was solid. I like that. And, you know, not for nothing, I do like Scott Ringinger as Roger, because there always has to be a loose cannon. And he is the loose cannon. He's the one where he's kind of like, it's not that he's having fun with the situation, but we reach a point where he starts taking unnecessary risks.
So I got a question for you about that. Do you think that he's doing that because he's gone comfortable with the situation, or because he has a death wish?
I think that it's a little more of a mental thing. I think comfortability kicked in, but I think also it is playing on his mental, where he has just reached a breaking point. You know what I'm saying? Where, you know, he's battling his own insanity because this is an insane situation he's thrust in.
The crazy thing is, I think there's a moment where they linger on him during the projects thing, and like one of his fellow officers just kills himself in front of him. Like he's seen this whole scenario was just too much for him, even though he's unscathed, but having to kill these people and seeing, you know, what's happening with the people, how they're treated, their dead loved ones and all that going down there. He can't take it. He kills himself. And there's like the camera lingers on Roger, and it's like, yo, you see, it's like he's like, yo, what is happening? I think, what is even happening? So,
I think that was the initial cut that created the wound. I think the wound busts through the seams at the part where they went to go get the trucks, and they're trying to put the trucks in front of the mall. And
I love that scene.
He is doing so much extra. You know what I'm saying? Like almost like he's toying with the zombies. He's trying to get extra kill shots in. It is really not necessary. He's doing so much to the point where, and you can see in his face that he is visibly bothered, to the point where Peter has to yoke him up. Like, look, you know what I'm saying? This crazy nonsense that you're doing, you need to tone it down, because you're not just messing with your life, you're messing with mine. He's like he did everything except for grabbing by the collar. Like, look, bro, you know, you need to put a lid on this shit.
My favorite part though is when Peter yells at him, and Peter's in the truck after they both get back into the one truck, and Peter's so pissed off. It's not anything he's saying, but as acting, I think this is one of the best acting beats in his movies, when he yells out and then he looks forward, he's driving the truck and he shifts that gear so hard. It's like pop the clutch. I was like, yo, that felt so real, man. But yeah, so that's crazy, because in the course of doing that, he gets bit.
And Peter knew off rip. He said, the first thing we got to do is address that. We got to address that. You know what I'm saying? That's priority numero uno. And then the thing is like, of course, this is where, again, the word of the show, the morality comes in, because they don't just want to take him out. They're like, you know, we're going to try and nurse him back to health. Maybe he's the rare case that'll get bit and not turn, while he's still, you know, trying to battle with that on his own terms.
You know, buddy.
Then Peter, yet again, he's like, yo, man, there's no saving him. I've seen people last up to 3 days.
Yeah, the 3 days.
But we, as far as us, like going in the helicopter and going and medevacing him to some hospital and some kind of antidote, that don't exist. It don't exist. So as of right now, he was part of the team. Now he is weighing us down. You know what I'm saying? But I do like that he does got one last hoorah when they running through the mall, and it's after they get all tooled up, and they're running through the mall, and they got my man in the little wheelbarrow. He's like tagging his eye out. So he's still useful.
That becomes a thing too, man. I think later on, Francine says, you know, we've pretty much built our own prison now, you know, and at one point you're like, this is so cool. We've got all these resources in here. We got all these stores. Most of their merchandise is intact. We can get into the stores without having to worry about the zombies for the most part, and then decide to hole up in there. And which is interesting, because then you see them trying to just reestablish what life was before this happened. And I don't know, bro. It hits me in a way. It makes me wonder, like, would you try to keep this going, or would you just accept what it was and just like yo, I'm just gonna die, bro? Like, what's the point of even trying to hold on to this? Like, I don't know, bro. Like,
cardinal rule in life, right? Nothing that is good lasts forever. You have to constantly enhance and put work into it. So I think that with this movie also, it shows us that at the very beginning, we're 3 weeks into the apocalypse. The course of them being in the mall from when they left, for when they first landed, until when the credits roll, is over the course of a month. So within that time, yes, everything in the mall as far as food and a lot of these resources, they're still available because it's such a short time span. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it would have showed 7 months down the line.
I mean, it's also great for shelter, but like you said, you're still going to have to start raiding the local stuff.
At some point, you have to venture out.
And then that circle gets bigger and bigger because you got what's on this block. Now you got to go to the next block. You clear that block. You clear, like, and your circle has to keep getting bigger. And then, you know, you're dealing with the aspect of you're in a place where other people see this as a chance to
That's
fuel
what I
up
was,
and re-up too.
I was just about to say, like,
I don't know if I could, like maybe getting out initially, that shock, and maybe the first month or maybe couple months, I will probably be like, yo, I'm trying to live, but I don't know. After a while, what will be my incentive to keep it going other than just wanting to see more daylight? And then everything around you is just this death and decay and people and zombies trying to kill you. Like,
that's what I mean. Like, that's not life. Like, of course, initially, yes, you find shelter, you hold up, you know, and you live for the day. You live almost by the hour, by the minute. But like you said, the more times you have to start venturing out for scavenger hunts, for food, for this, that, you're running more risk, more people, more casualties they're inevitable. And then ultimately what we see is, you know, when they do try to expand their way of life, it brings the attention of people in the surrounding area, and then that ultimately leads to
because everyone that's passing through is going to stop at the mall. That like, oh, maybe there's something in there I could use. Everyone's going to have that idea,
exactly. Because everybody's scavenging,
and then you become a person that's like, well, damn, it's getting less of us and more of the dead, but I got to kill more of us just to stay alive amongst us. Like it becomes crazy, man. And, I think some of the Francine brings that up, and that's kind of crazy because that prompts Flyboy to finally give her flying lessons. Like, yo, you know what? You got a point. And I think he's even playing. It was like, yo, we can't stay here forever. This isn't even good mentally
because they
stay in here forever.
They realize that the emergency broadcasting has now stopped.
Yeah.
So
things have gotten worse.
Once emergency broadcasting is no longer existent, then obviously the problem is not solved. It's definitely gotten worse. And with that, they have to expand their leash. You gotta stretch it out. Yeah. I mean, I think the mall was serviceable for the time being, but it is not an end.
Where would you think would be a good place to try to fucking hold out in a situation like this?
A spaceship. After shoot me into space.
Yeah, it would definitely, for me, it definitely couldn't be a place like this, man.
There is no end.
So that's my next question, though. Would you try to just go till the wheels fall off, or would you just be like, man, let me just get this over with now?
I'd rock till the wheels fall off because that's my nature. You know what I'm saying? That's my nature.
I don't know, bro. It could be so. I might try to go, but think about it. Like even when that scene where my man Peter, they land the helicopter to refuel. That's when my man gets the top. Obviously, his head is super big, so they're going to do something. It's just kind of telegraphing, and it's funny, man. I love that effect, but he kills the two kids, and you're like, damn, that gotta fuck with him a little bit. But it's like me or them. And it's survival. Like, I feel like it'll be something like that, something little like that that'll make you snap and just be like, man, bro, what's the point?
It would, but like to me personally, it wouldn't make me eat a bullet because it intensifies the thought that I have that life is not easy anyways. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It's not supposed to be this tough, It's not supposed to be this hard, but it's not easy. So, you know,
I can't even think of anything.
It really comes down to, you know, how bad you want to live. Like, do you really want to live? Because, I mean, you could always bow out. Always. You know what I'm saying? That is the easiest option you could take. But I mean, also I like how they kind of battle this thought with how they decide to end the movie, because the original film ended with Peter eating a bullet and Francine gets her head chopped off intentionally by the helicopter. But then they decided to, you know, reinvent it and make it a little bit more digestible for the masses. That would have been very grim.
But I'm pretty sure there's probably were a lot of people that did that in that scenario, man. Like I said, you might resist initially, but once it comes to be, when the broadcast ends, and it looks like this ain't never going to end.
I feel like ultimately it really, you know, it comes down to the individual and what do you have to live for. Like, you know, if I am able to keep, my loved ones intact, my group intact, people I want to be around intact, and they're not, I'm not losing them left and right to the point where I feel all alone and secluded within my own self with dealing with this. Yeah, then maybe, you start contemplating these thoughts. But I mean, if you can keep everybody together and, you're fighting for your survival as a group and, you're pushing for,
I'll break down, bro. My little girl will be like, I want that Happy Meal, Daddy. And there ain't no more Happy Meals.
Shit, every meal's a Happy Meal.
I'll probably lose it.
In the zombie apocalypse, shit, a can of beans is a Happy Meal. You got food in your stomach, be happy.
I'll just let the chocolate spray, bro. It's in everybody's misery now.
Come on. Yeah, but I think that's why, when it comes to, the set pieces that this film provides for us, that is awesome because yet again, it becomes a character in itself within the film. Like by having this shot in the mall, it just opens up all of these tree branch ideas. Like, well, the what if, like, would you try to like hold it down in the whole mall, like how they're doing, or would you just kind of fortify one store?
I can't think of any other place where you could set this and still have the same impact that this film did. Like there's nowhere else you could put this movie. Like it just, I don't think it'll work the same, bro. And be as interesting and have, like I said, so much baked in commentary. And I honestly, I think some of the stuff that ends up that becomes the stuff, the philosophical stuff, it probably was accidental, but it's bolstered. Like when you make certain good choices, like setting this in a mall, that also leads to you stumbling on, running into other things accidentally. That just because you had a really good premise, now you're able to dig into that and find more stuff, to pull out of it. That makes this film, when you think about it on the surface level, it's not much, story, but there's so much that comes out of this, man.
What I like too about having it set in the mall, it kind of gives another dimension to the zombies where, like, they even ask, like, why are there so many zombies here? Why do they keep coming here? They think that, they must be able to smell us. They know that there's living people in here, so they're hunting us. No, they're coming just off instinct. They are showing up to the mall because when they were alive, this was something that they did.
Some of them maybe worked here.
Some of them shopped. I mean, some of them as a pastime. And
that's where I'll go to get lunch anyway. Maybe there's some people in here I can snack on.
That really shows that the zombies, even though they are inanimate, they still have, human responses. There is a small part of their brain that is working enough to bring them to they're having that part kind of spark.
And that part too would keep me from trying to make this work in here. Like, dude, they constantly coming in, bro. And like, I think that's what's cool about this. Like, this film scales up a lot of stuff. First of all, it's in color. We're scaling up the gore. We're scaling up the action. We also getting like dozens of zombies on screen, like in a way that we couldn't before in the previous film. So it opens up a lot, bro. And it's pretty cool. Even the setting, the way that they were able to film this was filmed mostly in the after hours, overnight, and they filmed, all the way up until the early morning, while the mall wasn't open. So and it was cool that the mall allowed them to be in there and operate in there and to make this film in there. So this is kind of in that still same outer skirts of Pittsburgh film location.
It took place in Monroeville Mall in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. So with the news broadcasting station being in Philadelphia, so yes, they are still hovering around Pennsylvania. So between 68 and 79, Pennsylvania, you might not want to go because they got a zombie problem. They got a zombie problem in Pennsylvania. But wild, I love the set pieces. Showing the broadcast studio, showing us, the project building on street level, and then giving us the mall as the place where they hold up. Cause it just, like you said, it opens up all these avenues in the brain of the what if. But another thing that really pushes this film through is the makeup and special effects that are done by Tom Savini, which I want to say he's done work before this, but this was the one that kind of really, got his name out there in a big way. And it's cool because Romero actually initially intended on having him do the special effects on Night of the Living Dead, but Tom Savini ended up getting drafted to go, his draft card got pulled and he had to go fight in Vietnam.
Which, interestingly enough, probably made him better because I think he was a war photographer while he was over there. And so that's probably kind of leads to the realism of some of his gore effects.
Yes.
Like, and because
Yes.
seeing nasty stuff and
Yes.
having to film that, and you got that as a reference now when you're making this kind of work, you know.
And it's funny too because, you know, the look of the zombies and especially the blood, that kind of adds to almost like a comic book style feel to this, where we know that we're watching something like, oh man, this is a horror, this is gory, but it kind of gives it that fun element. And he said that the reason why he chose the tone that he did was because in the initial Night of the Living Dead, it was shot in black and white.
Yeah.
So he used this gray tone, not realizing until after it was all the cuts were made and, you know, on screen, that they kind of came off a little bluish, and that bright red blood.
That blue is, I love this blue because
it's kind of like a natural tone that the body takes when you reach that level of depth.
And it kind of, they're not just a little old and tired looking, you know, and dusty. So it's like that blue really gives it a really cool effect.
And this also, like it,
and it's weird because no other film is really, even Romero's later works haven't leaned into that.
And I like too, because it doesn't just like everyone who dies doesn't die a gory death. Like they're not going to come back and half their heads missing or eyeballs hanging out, or, you know, they got an axe in their neck or something. Whereas as we got into the later zombie films, it was about making them look as grotesque as possible.
I feel like
these people look like they just, you know, some of them just raised
with some
up.
of the other films too, is it depends. Like if there's time has passed, you know, these guys are going to start looking like that eventually. But these films are so far like Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. They're about early outbreaks. You know what I'm saying? Whereas something,
decay hasn't set in. Yes.
Whereas something like Walking Dead, they're in it for years at some point. So some of these things they're barely there. They're crawling on the ground. Even
with like Return of the Living Dead, they're actually coming out of the grave. Out of the tomb already decomposed. You know, and I like that, you know, the blood that they use, it's that bright red, so it really pops off the blue tones and everything. They didn't realize, Savini didn't realize, no one in the production crew realized it was that bright on screen. But this was one of their early, it was 3M made the blood, and this was like one of the early films that they actually tried it on. So it wasn't a test run, but it was like early trials.
I think in a way, it keeps it from being almost too intolerable, like because it's not a realistic color. It's not
cartoony.
It's not that dark, deep, you know, crimson color that we're used to seeing. So this, like you said, it feels a little cartoony. And also, most of the films in this era were putting blood out in the same way. Like if you look at there's a Bruce Lee movie. I think the first, Big Boss. The blood is the color of the blood in this.
Exactly.
When at the end where he digs his fingers in the dude's ribs and it's like,
it's like that candy apple red. It's like, all right, you know.
It lets me know that I'm watching a film. Sometimes I think some of the newer stuff is a little bit too crazy. But I will say this, man, this memory scene in this, that shit looks fucking crazy. It's still, which is fucked up because shout out to this dude DVD I got. I'm watching this last night and the menu is just the fucking, the rip apart gore scene where they're digging. I'm like,
the biker,
dude, I'm like, bro, why would you make this your main menu like scene? And they're just digging in this dude's guts. I mean, as I'm trying to find the subtitles that don't exist on this copy. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta see this just nasty digging in the guts.
Lasagna for dinner doing that.
Crazy, bro. Crazy. Bro.
It does hit, and like, I mean, even case in point with the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which was really, really good. Was it Snyder's one of his best films? If not his best. You know, but you look at the difference in the gore effects from that to this. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this. Even though this is a horror film, it has a certain level of fun to it, added to it, you know what I'm saying, throughout the whole film. And, you know, with the Dawn of the Dead, it's so much more, it's the kind of stuff that would make you look away or like, oh man, it's cringeworthy because it's so realistic and so gory. So, I mean, it worked. And also, you know, with watching, you know,
those bites were really crazy, man. Like to this day, people still reference those bites. Like, you know,
that's what I'm saying. And what I like about this, with this currently being year 2025 and this coming out in 1978, you know, the makeup effects show that it is a testament of the times that we were in then when this film was made, when there was no CGs, all practical effects, you know, invented this in originality to try to, you know, portray a certain image on screen, you know what I'm saying? A feeling on screen, you know, and people had to really, you know, they had to really get creative for that, to make that happen, for it to translate and to translate well.
Yeah, man. Yeah. They definitely did a good job, man. Like, there are some differences with the different versions out. I watched the DVD version, which is going to be the theatrical cut. There is a European cut which shaves some stuff off of it, trying to make it more, I guess, action orientated and a little bit more serious. Then there's an extended cut which adds about maybe 10 more minutes of footage or something like that, you know, and that's kind of more, makes it, you know, there's a little bit more dark humor into it, you know what I'm saying? A little bit more optimism, I think, than some of the other cuts. But
one of the things that I did like about the Euro version over the theatrical cut was the opening scene in the newsroom. It felt more chaotic.
I liked it. I liked that.
It's like you see people rumbling and fumbling around, and there was like in the theatrical cut, Romero version, you see people kind of standing, like you said earlier in the show. People were more focused on the broadcast and what, you know, that message that's being delivered. And this is a sense of urgency. We're in a state of panic right now, and I feel like the Euro cut really portrayed that a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to look at the other films in the biography. I think with Night of and Dawn of is like we do get those newsroom scenes, which is really cool. I like in Night of. Those scenes are, you know, more informative. It's not chaotic. It's really early, and they're giving people locations. Go check out here. Here's the shelters. The second one, Dawn, I think is cool too because we do get the conflict of that. But it's like by the time we get to Land of the Dead, which is also I think maybe his last good one, you know, dealing with this stuff. And there's no news, whatever. Like it's just there's not even that. That's not even there.
That's not.
But you know what though was interesting. What I think is cool though, he also always finds a way to put in these philosophical moments. Like in this, the scene is Peter's telling Roger, you know, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Yeah. And then that line comes up again in Day of the Dead, you know, the Jamaican pilot this time. And he brings it up. He's talking about the island stuff. And I think it's cool that he infuses these scenes. He slows it down enough to give us some kind of contemplation on the situation and the human condition overall.
Absolutely. You know? And another thing that I liked is by them bringing it up, and that was the main focal point in Zombie 2. In Argento's version, the Euro version, they actually lead with the title for this is Zombie Dawn of the Dead, which then opens up the pathway for Zombie 2, which was all the way Argento's version as well.
Did Zombie come out after Dawn? Or
no, this Zombie 2 came out after Dawn. Yeah, so that's why they marketed it as a direct sequel to Dawn of the Dead because
that's
initially it was released in Italy first, I believe.
Because in Italy, Dawn of the Dead was released as Zombie. So to capitalize on that.
That momentum.
My man, he called his film Zombie 2, which here is just, when it was released here, it was just released as Zombie.
Another glaring difference for me between the US and the Euro cuts was the score. Like, in Romero's version, he actually used cuts from, the Wolf Music Library or D Wolf Music Library. And it kind of like, it gives it a little bit more of a whimsical feel, you know, especially in scenes where they're running through the mall. Like it almost feels like you're watching a video game being played, like a Super Mario Brothers or something like that, as they're, you know, navigating through their course levels and beating the zombies and getting their objective taken care of.
Yeah, because didn't Goblin do music on?
Goblin did the music for the Euro version.
They didn't do anything at all for the American?
It says here on Wiki that Goblin was the one who did the score for the Euro version, and in the U.S. Romero cut, it was cuts from the D Wolf Music Library.
Wow. That would make a big difference, you know, some aspects.
I mean, I feel like the Euro version by them, you know, with their usage of Goblin, it had a different tempo, which I feel like it also made the film, even though their runtimes were almost exactly the same, it made the film feel like it was playing faster. Like I said, intensifying that sense of urgency feeling, you know what I'm saying? Whereas the Romero cut, and, you know, and the thing is, you know, if we were not provided both of these options to watch them parallel. Like I watched the US version yesterday and then I immediately watched the Euro version. So I was able to kind of pick apart a little bit. I could watch either one and be very, very pleased with the movie and how it was shot.
It definitely holds up to me, man, rewatching it. You know, there's just, you know, it definitely feels like something from the 70s. Yeah. But I think for what this thing is on paper is amazing to me because this film is much more than its synopsis. You know, that's why it's one that people frequently reference. It's probably top 3 zombie films ever made still to this day, even though a lot of stuff has come out that has, you know, kind of encroached its territory, what it's trying to portray. Like even, I'm really looking forward to see what they do with this 28 Days Later. Cause like one of the things that's cool, I love this film and Night Of, where we're seeing the outbreak of this, but also what's still interesting to me because of these films is what's going to happen like 5 years in, what's 10 years in, what was 20 years in look like. Yeah, well, I think we could wrap this up, folks, man. Definitely rewatch Dawn of the Dead, man. And there's various versions out there, man, so you can track them down if you know what to look for. But, you know, I still think the theatrical gets the job done. You know, the other stuff just gives a little bit more nuance to the overall situation. But as I said, man, this thing was such a great idea. Romero's original film, Night of the Living Dead, and then going into this, that now we have like just multiple zombie stuff, multiple zombie films, zombie TV shows got to heights we've never seen before, zombie comic books, award winning. And it's still a topic that continues to endure and be explored by creatives, man. It's just a fascinating scenario to think about, you know.
And this film is a testament to Romero's, you know, creativity, his originality, his cinematic genius, you know what I'm saying, with being able to come up with this and just the ripple effect that it's had down the line, you know, like I said, with the various forms of zombies and how you can constantly enhance the zombie creature. But the rewatchability is there. It was such a fun rewatch for me this week. Just this is not a time capsule movie. It is a movie that you can put on anytime and enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And it's still real time relevant.
Yeah, I think it'll be worse today, man. Dealing with this with cell phones, bro. You be on looking at the Instagram and seeing people getting chewed up.
Like, trying to record it instead of worry about saving their life. No, I need this one for my channel.
It's wild, but we out here, folks, man. We're gonna be back for another episode of Classes of Cinematics. Check us out on Instagram at Classes of Cinematics. We're also on TikTok. Just type in Classes of Cinematics. You can catch me at Monkey Blood on Twitter and Instagram.
And as always, this is Bobby Blockbuster. You can catch me on the next show.
All right. Peace.